I now request allow senators to make their comments. Senator Olekina Ledama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this bill, the County Government Additional Allocation Bill number 2 of 2022. Mr. Speaker, from a little background, 2 years ago, we carried out about 11 votes when we were fighting for the division, for the revenue formula, to be able to determine how much money will be able to go into our counties. During that time, Mr. Speaker, we had a very good, interesting debate on whether the money should be divided based on the land size or based on the number of the people. But wisdom prevailed in this House, and we were able to divide the money, following a formula that we developed, all of us, so that we can be able to support our counties. Mr. Speaker, during the time of the debate, when we were all fighting for about 342 billion, we received some information that our money had been increased to 370 billion. So all of us were excited. But little did we know that all conditional grants were now being calculated as part of the division of revenue, so that we could get about 370 billion. When it came to the time when we were going through the budget policy statement, and the time that we were now considering the division of revenue bill, dividing revenue between the two levels of government, is when it dawned on us that the reason why the money had gone up to 370 billion and the formula had already been approved by this House is because Treasury and all those people who were fighting had found a clever way of taking all the conditional grants and putting them into the formula. So, Mr. Speaker, it all started, a big debate started, it ended up into litigation, and finally, the courts agreed with the Senate that you cannot, commingle the funds. You cannot take the conditional grants and add them into and divide them. So this is why we are now being invited to come up with a law. And the reason why I'm giving this background is because I was sitting here and I was listening to my brother, the majority whip, seconding the bill, and he deviated completely and he started talking about the issue of the marginalization fund. But I knew that it is important for us to go through, or the equalization fund, to be able to talk about why this bill is very, very important. This is a bill which is going to support us. And I thank the Supreme Court, Mr. Speaker, because this year, the Supreme Court gave this Senate the authority to be able to oversight on these funds. We were fighting between the Senate and the National Assembly on even the title of this act. Mr. Speaker, before it was called Conditional Grants Bill, and then all of a sudden we agreed that let's call it Additional Revenue Allocation to the counties. So, Mr. Speaker, the importance of this bill, I see it in two fronts. One, it is in aiding this Senate to be able to carry out its oversight mandate. Number two, it is also to ensure that in every year, every cycle, when we are doing the division of revenue, or when the National Assembly comes out with the budget, we can also consider more money going into the counties. This is money that comes in forms of grants, loans from the World Bank, donations, because it is very clear. It says the county government additional allocation. Additional allocation is different from the division of revenue or from CARA, the county revenue allocations. When I stand here, Mr. Speaker, the reason why I support this bill is because I know Narok County will get an additional 512 million shillings. There is a clear schedule, and I hope it's in this bill because I've just gone through the bill I'm debating based on memory. But I think if you open, and I want to invite my dear brother, my majority whip, to look at page 69. Because when you look at here, the total amount that Narok County will get, and this is why I'm very excited about it, is R1 billion shillings. More than the 8 billion which it receives in the division of revenue. Kakamega, where my good friend comes from, I think we'll get the big lion's share. Kakamega, what is county number what? And please, can you be increasing the font? Nimeanza kuzeeka. That ngapi? No, actually, Kakamega, sijui pesa yako mtapata. That is for the? That's where they'll get more money. Oh, that's for the equalization fund. But the additional revenue allocation in terms of grants. And it's very interesting, and I'm glad, thank you, Senator Sifuna, because I've seen that they have now also added the equalization fund money here. This is actually very good, because once you add the equalization fund here, you are able now to ensure that you legislate on all those funds as additional allocation. That was ingenious, I must say, of the National Assembly, because they did not want a process where we come back and we go back and forth in terms of regulations, even though we passed the regulations on equalization fund. But the most important thing about this bill, Mr. Speaker, is that all grants, you know, World Bank. Today I was having lunch with Governor from Kisumu, and he was raising concern on projects which are funded by the World Bank. These projects which are funded by the World Bank, money comes in the first phase, but second phase, the money do not reach the counties. And it is because we do not have a legislative framework to be able to ensure that this money is released on time and all those conditions which are set by the donor agencies are met. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, this is a bill that I want to request all the 47 delegations to be present to be able to pass it. And I thank the chair of budget for moving expeditiously to be able to bring this matter so that we can debate. I understand the challenge we have in terms of debating when we do not have a report. But I believe that we still have third reading. You know, if we pass this bill in the second reading, we actually, it's like a conveyor belt. We are moving one step at a time. So I want to plead with my colleagues, because I had Senator Cherargei concerned that he has not read the report. But I think for us to be able to bring business into this house, anytime we have a bill, and I appreciate the work that the Budget Committee is doing, we move fast, so that before we go into the third reading, if there are concerns, we can be able to amend them. We can be able to discuss them on this floor when we get an opportunity to be able to read the report. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, without deliberating too much on these issues, I support.
Thank you. Majority Rinda.